If you're anything like me and you got a Sur-On e-bike over the pandemic, you've been waiting forever for this thing to show up. I waited 6 weeks. I just got it 2 days ago. I ordered my bike on May 10th, and I got it on July 9th. And boy, would I have liked to see one of these videos, because let me tell you something. While there were so many informational videos out there, every single one of them said to expect certain things when you got your bike. And I just got my bike. And there are 7 things that completely threw me for a loop that I just want to save you some time and frustration right off the bat. So as soon as your bike gets to you, you can get it up and riding. And I promise you, it's like the easiest thing ever. It was not hard to build this bike. But from all of the other assembly videos that I'm sure you've been watching just like I did over the 6-week period of waiting for it to show up, oh man, it was like, I was just so frustrated. I thought I didn't even have my keys. So I just want to save you guys any of the frustration that you might feel that I went through just by assuming that the bike that you're about to get is going to line up with the videos you've been watching as recently as a month ago. The new crop of bikes has some surprises to it. So I just want to show you. We'll take you out in the field, go around the bike, and show you the 7 things that threw me totally for a loop, and then some advice that I have for any new riders at the end who have never ridden a bike like this before. And pretty much that's probably all of you. If this is your first Sur-On, please listen to what I have to say at the end, because I don't want you to get hurt. I want you to be smart, and I want you to ride tomorrow. That's the whole thing. We can ride today, but make sure you ride tomorrow too. Check out these 7 things. It's going to really help you save some time. Let's go out into the field. All right, so let's check out what's new about this bike. First of all, my God, it looks so sick. I can't. I'm so into this thing, and I can't get enough of it. I've been riding it around for basically half a charge. And what I noticed when I was going to build it, the first thing was that these keys were definitely not in any boxes. Every YouTube video I saw had them in a box. Look for them in the box. They're going to be in the box. Definitely not in the box. Okay, they were attached right about there. So just don't freak out like I did, because seriously, I was like losing it. I was just ripping through the boxes looking like, how is it possible that I've been waiting 6 weeks for this thing? Don't worry about it. It was just clipped right here to the frame, the fork. So if I just open this real quick, these cables were unplugged. They were just like hanging over the side right here. And the breaker was flipped to the off position, not like it is now. So it was cool. These came hanging over the side. The breaker was off. When I turned the battery on, it was at 73%. And so I didn't really charge it up at all, because I knew I wasn't going to go for, 73% of a ride or more than that. I just wanted to see what this thing can do. All right, so let's talk about these handlebars, because it's the first thing that you're going to install. First off, they're a little bit wider than usual, so we'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to make sure, if I can save you some time, don't start here with the clamp. Don't do that, because then it makes it really, really hard to fit the brake lever and the throttle. The cables aren't long enough to get them to the edge of the bar to fit them over it. So what I had to do was actually, I unclamped it. I just held it up vertically, just like this, like up and down. And then it was super easy for me to just fit this brake lever and the throttle on top of each other, and then I leveled it out and I was able to put it here. I just snugged them up over here and then I clamped it on. But I definitely had trouble. I clamped it on first, and then I tried to put the lever and the throttle on, and it just wasn't happening. No matter how I routed it, the wires were just not long enough. So maybe it was something the way I was doing it, but it was just so much easier if you do the lever and the throttle first, and then you can clamp it. It's just super easy. All right, let's talk about this front axle bolt, because it was definitely different from what I was seeing on any videos. All right, everybody is saying that you have to unscrew this thing counterintuitively, because the way that the system works. So you would actually, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you wanted to loosen it up, you would think to unscrew it to the left. But in every video that I've seen, it is on one side a cap that screws off opposite of what you're taught. And then this is the actual bolt that's threaded up to about, I don't know, ½ an inch. So what you're told to do on every other video is unscrew this first, righty-loosey, lefty-tighty, which is backwards. And a lot of the older models had a directional arrow to lock or unlock. This one does not. What I'm telling you is that the other side is not threaded anymore. So once you unscrew this and it was totally normal, lefty-loosey, then the other side just comes out. It's not threaded. So it just came right out. It was like the easiest, it came right out of the block. Now it took me a second. I mean, you have to fiddle with it. It doesn't come right out of the block of the box, but it seems like they figured out, hey, this is backwards. Stop doing that. Like, it's confusing everybody, because I'm telling you right now, it was the most intuitive thing. You just unscrew the cap and then you can work the bolt out and then you can screw them back in and they both tighten, you know, righty-tighty. So I just want to throw that out there. Don't freak out. It's actually pretty normal putting this on there, and it was super easy getting them on. But a lot of the videos said that one spacer was going to be installed and that the other spacer was going to come like attached in like a zip tie. They actually were both attached in a zip tie. Not that it makes a difference, but just heads up, neither were installed. You just press them up against the O-ring. It's super easy, but both of them just came in a zip tie. So that's the front axle. It's just if anything, more intuitive and super easy. For me, I was unscrewing it to the left and tightening it to the right, and I only had to do it on one side, and then the other side would slide right out. So super easy. But one thing I will mention is that you really want to tighten this to spec, because I did not. And then I went for a good half a charge ride, and when I came back, I checked it, and I could actually, I could turn it by thumb and finger. And so that really made me nervous, and I torqued it to spec, and it's been fine now. So just make sure you do that, because you do not want your front axle bolt coming out while you're riding. The decals didn't match anything on the instructions. So I want you right now to just pause the video right here and get a picture of what your decals should look like. And then here's the other side. This is what the decals should look like. And I had to pause somebody's video on YouTube to figure that out, because they don't match the instructions. The instructions have pieces that are completely cut differently, and it's like impossible to configure. And then you have this little back strip here. It looks super sick when you put these on here. I'm not gonna lie, like I wasn't gonna put these on. I was like, I kind of don't want my bike looking like everybody else's bike, but it is just awesome. And it's not like banana yellow, it's like neon yellow, which is shocking to me. I wasn't ready for that. Last thing I want to say about these decals is do not throw them out. They're extremely easy to throw out, and I actually had them left in the box when I put them out by the dumpster, and then I realized the next morning, wait a minute, I didn't get my decals. I went out and looked at the box. Thank God they didn't take them overnight. And yeah, they're sandwiched here, as you can see in this picture, right in between two pieces of flat cardboard, and it says basically apply here on the cardboard. So yeah, don't throw those stickers out. Now, right out of the box, I cut no wires, 0 wires, and I had it in EP mode, and it was going 31, and I put it in sport, and it was hitting 50. So, I mean, I don't want it to go any faster than that, to be honest with you. Like, you guys tell me. I'll check out the wiring. I already sent a message to Luna, but I just was like, hey, listen, you know, this is great. Like, is it possible that this was shipped, like, you know, completely unlocked? Because I haven't touched any wires or anything, and I mean, I am hitting ridiculous speeds. I'm like, the bike can basically get away from you at any time. So like, I've never done a wheelie in my life, and sorry for the wind here. I did like a 3-second wheelie when I had it in sport, and I went up a little hill. It was just like the easiest thing ever, and I kind of balanced it out for a minute. I mean, it was awesome. It was terrifying, but it was awesome. Okay, one thing I want to definitely mention is the seat. This seat is not soft, so it's definitely hard. Now, it comes a little bit more rounded off than I think former models, as I've been reading. But yeah, let me tell you something, guys. This is like riding on a 2x4 plank. Like, it is definitely going to hurt by the end of your ride. And then I went out after charging up again, and I tried to go for a second ride, and my ass was just sore. So you're gonna feel it. You're gonna have to get used to it. It's just like anything new. But I'm definitely going to look for, you know, maybe an upholstering or some sort of fix. I know there's an Airhawk seat that I had for one of my dirt bikes that was like okay, and you can look at that. I'll put a link in the description. But honestly, it's just, it is what it is. It's
It's better than like an Apollo DB 250, but it's not comfortable to go like crush like, you know, 30 miles at a time. You'll definitely be feeling it. So just a heads up, you know, it's not disappointing. It's just, oh boy, I'm going to have to get used to this. Like my ass kind of hurts at the end of a ride. That's all. But the other thing about it is that it's softer here at the front than it is here in the back. So I find myself riding more often in the front, and it's sloped kind of like this. So you would imagine if you're sitting right here on my knuckles, then your body is leaning forward like this. It leans you forward, and that's what I was alluding to. With the handlebars, you're just leaning forward into them. That's the thing that really made me the most uncomfortable, I think, so far with the bike that I've had to get used to, is that the handlebars are wider than I'm used to. And you're leaning into them. Like you're definitely leaning forward into them at pretty much all times. So with the combination of the fact that you're putting stress on your forearm leaning into the bike and also having to be wider out and then throttling, it kind of like made me sore at the end of the day. So, I mean, again, not a complaint. It's just something that I'm going to get used to, but prepare to be leaning forward a little bit. You're always kind of front leaning with the way that this seat is if you want to be on the softest part of it. That's just my experience, but I think you'll probably feel the same way. It came installed, which is awesome. Now I had to screw on the pedal and the lever here. But what happened is, now this is, you know, completely perpendicular to parallel to the ground, right? I didn't install the other one in the opposite position. I have this one straight down. It should be parallel to the ground. You know, I didn't even think about that when putting the second one on, and now I can't pedal the bike. It just swings back and forth, but I can't basically pedal over it. I can basically I only swing back and forth. I can't because of the way that the pedals are configured. So if you do get the pedal kit, be very, very careful of how you put them on. Now I can still ride with them both flat. When it starts riding, it doesn't stay like this. Like they'll both level out. But because of the way that they're originally configured, I can't kick it over one time. I literally cannot kick it over one time. So it doesn't even do me any good to try to fake anybody out on compliance. And I tried to take them off, and they're so jammed on there after just one ride. So when you install them, just install them in like a 12 to 6 pattern, 9 to 3, whatever, on a clock. You know, make sure that they're installed at 12 to 6 so that you can actually pedal this system and not end up just like swinging like an idiot like me.
So there you have it. 7 things that kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop, but as long as you have a heads up, they shouldn't really mess with you at all. Building this bike, again, is so easy. It took me so much more time to just get it unbubble wrapped than it did to actually put this thing together. Like, you're not going to have any trouble putting it together. And really, nothing threw me for too much of a loop. It was just a lot of pleasant surprises, if you will. I just love everything about this bike, and I wanted to just update a few things before we get out of here. The pedal kit, I'm going to do a whole video on, so check that out. I'm going to put that out tomorrow because I feel like it deserves its whole video. I've been yelled at so far. I've also driven right past a cop. I brought my bike up to the police station, talked to them, and I have just a whole lot of information on this. If anybody is curious about the pedal kit and whether or not you should get one, I've never been so torn in my life, and I really think I have some good information to help you decide. It's just going to depend on how you ride. The regen I wanted to talk about is incredible on this bike. So, I mean, I've ridden other bikes before, you know, Kawasaki Ninja 500, like a 650cc scooter. It's called a Bergman 650. I've had different bikes, you know, different types of bikes, an Apollo 250 DB, whatever, just Chinese bike. The regen on this, the engine braking, it feels like engine braking when you have it in sport mode, like legitimate engine braking. So you can like rip it up to 50, and then as soon as you come off of the throttle, it's just going to start slowing you down. You don't just like coast as if you were in neutral. Like, there is no coast mode on this bike, even if you were, you know, as if you were on a motorcycle and to put it into neutral and then it will just kind of coast. It's just not like that. You can have it in sport mode and then just like really rip it. And if you want to coast a little bit more, once you get to the top speed, just throw it into EP mode and it'll definitely coast more, but it's still regens. It's still engine brakes a little bit in EP mode too. I've heard that it doesn't have it in EP mode. 100% it does. You're never in the same feeling in a motorcycle where you put it into neutral and it just like coasts, or you just hold in your clutch and it just coasts. It doesn't feel like that. Anytime you come off of your throttle, it's going to start slowing down a little bit. It's just way more of that in sport mode. I love that because it's less braking that I have to do to go into a turn. And this thing corners so incredibly well because you can just rip out of it. But you don't have to brake very hard to get into a turn. You can actually use that engine braking to just come off the throttle once you learn that. And it'll just sort of naturally slow you down enough to take the corner and just rip right out of it. God, it feels good. So, yeah, the regen on this is fantastic. Another thing I wanted to mention is one of my goals for mountain biking and riding my other e-bike, my Rad Mini, I've always wanted to get to the point where I could just one finger brake. I want to be able to only use one finger to use the brake lever because I want to have the rest of my hand concentrated on the throttle. And I've never been able to do that. For whatever reason, on any other bike, I've just always used a couple fingers. It's usually at least 2 or 3 fingers. I know that's not safe, so I'm trying to work towards getting to one finger braking. Well, all of a sudden, I was looking down on my first Sur-Ron ride, and I was like, whoa, I'm only using my middle finger. This is crazy. Like the way that it's set up and the ease that comes with the lever, you really only naturally go for it with one finger. So you keep the other fingers on the throttle and you're just totally in control at all times. Now, I will say a lot of people mention that these brakes squeak. Not a squeak out of the box. Like I have not had one squeak. No BS. I'm not lying to you. It's all about the alignment of your forks. So as long as you get that right and the alignment of your caliper going into the brake pads. If you get the alignment right, like literally, I mean, I just got it right on the first try, luckily, I think, because I haven't done this a ton of times, but zero squeaking, fantastic braking. The only issue I had was that after about 5 miles or so, they kind of locked up on me and the lever wasn't like pulling. It wasn't pulling and then retracting again. It wasn't engaging. I had to like really squeeze it hard and kind of like break whatever was in the way and break it, but just kind of like get past whatever that was holding it back. And then like all of a sudden it's just been wonderful. It was just sticking a little bit. And that's normal with any brakes. So once they kind of like broke in, they've been wonderful so far and just zero squeaking. So I don't know if it's just me, but I guess I got lucky there. So I implore you guys, like, please be careful. Take it slow because as soon as you get on it, you're going to start giggling if you're anything like me. And you're just going to be like, holy hell, this thing rips. And you're just going to want to try all the things that you do on your other bikes. And it's just be careful. Take it slow. Learn the new dimensions because as much as it feels or looks like a motorcycle, it's not one. It's not a dirt bike. And it's not a mountain bike. The only way to describe this thing is it's a Sur-Ron. It's got elements of all of those, but it rides like its own beast. And I've just never felt anything like that before, except for on my one wheel, where I was like, wow, this isn't a skateboard. It's not a snowboard. It's not a surfboard. It just rides like its own thing. It's a one wheel. Same thing with this Sur-Ron. Like you just got to get used to it first. So just take it slow, be careful. Make sure you ride tomorrow instead of just today. It's the whole point around here. And I hope I see you guys on my next video coming out, which will be the pedal kit and then a full review of what I think about this coming from a mountain bike's perspective and coming from a motorcycle's perspective. So you can really get all the information. If you're on the fence trying to think about whether or not you should buy this thing, or if you're just sitting there waiting for it to come, I hope you get a lot out of these videos coming up. And I think you should subscribe to my channel because I'm just trying to come at it from an educational standpoint. Follow me on my journey from day one with my Sur-Ron to whoever the hell knows, man. I'm about to go hit these trails. I hope I see you guys soon. Thanks for the support. Go get a ride on.